Thank you for checking Malt's Dev channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some iPhone privacy settings that you need to turn off right away. Without wasting time, let's dive in. Now normally when you get your iPhone or you just set up your new iPhone, there are things that you need to go through and change. Sometimes people don't pay attention to the privacy settings. Now these settings could be very helpful when you're trying to save your battery or if you worried about the privacy issue. So today I'm just going to show you some of those settings that you need to completely turn off, and they will help you save the battery, but it also help you not to share your information with some third-party applications or Apple themselves. So the first thing you need to do is to open up the settings application. So you go to your iOS settings and then you scroll down to where you see it says privacy. So when you tap privacy, you can see a whole section of different things, but we're specifically going to be spending more time on the location option. But one thing I would like to mention is that every single option that you see here is very important. Normally when you install a new application, those applications normally ask you to have access to notifications. They ask you to have access to the microphone. They need access to the camera. They need different access to different things. So if you look at contacts, if you tap contacts, you will see a list of applications that are accessing your contacts. So you want to make sure that if you don't want to share your information, if you don't want to share your contacts with some third-party application, you want to make sure you come in here and then turn off, for example, like Skype. You can turn off Skype to access your contacts. So a good example is if you see where it says PNC. Like, why would PNC need access to my contacts? So I turn that off. If we go to Bluetooth, you can see that there are some applications that need access to Bluetooth. Now, why would Verizon need to use Bluetooth? I don't know, but I turn that off. So that's just a good example. Like, for example, like microphone. There are some applications that don't need to access the microphone, so you need to make sure you turn those off. This other thing is you can check the camera application and see which applications are accessing your camera. Like, if you don't need them to access it, then you just completely turn them off. Same thing applies to the photos. You can always make sure check and see which applications are accessing your photos. So you can actually go through most of these applications to make sure and check to see whether you need them to access the resources that they are accessing, or you can turn them off. But our main goal today is to focus on the location services. Now normally you need the locations services to be turned on. Otherwise, your iPhone would be somehow useless, because most of the services we use on the iPhone require you to have your locations turned on. So if we go to the location services, you see where it says location services. That's the main toggle switch for the location. So you don't want to turn that off. What we want to do is to customize a few settings under this location category. So if you scroll down, you can see which applications are using the location services. What I want you to pay extra attention to is whenever you see an application that says always, make sure you change that from always to at least when using the application. Say for example, like Google Maps. Like if I click here, it says while using the application. So if it was turned on, if the option of always was the one checked, this means that Google Maps will be able to access your location even when you're not using the application. So that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure that you move that to where it says while using the application. And you could do the same thing with other applications like Lyft and Maps. So you want to make sure that they don't use your application, they don't use your location when you don't need to. Same thing applies for most of these other applications. But I want to shift our attention to one important thing down here. If you scroll all the way down to where it says System Services, so if you tap on that, you will see a bunch of other options. Now, most of these you don't need them. Like if we turn most of these off, it will save our battery, but also we don't need to share our privacy. We don't need to share our location with Apple and later on other third-party services. So what you need to do is to turn off most of these like where it says Apple Merchant Pay identification, you need to turn that off. Campus calibration, you need to turn that off unless if you use the campus more often, but if not, you need to turn that off. Emergency calls, you need to turn that off, completely off. So for Find My iPhone, I always leave that on because if I ever lose my iPhone, I can usually try to find it using this feature. So I normally misplace my iPhone, so this could be a useful feature for me when I'm trying to find it. So I can leave that on, but if you don't find that useful feature, you can always turn that off. So HomeKit, we don't need that. Location-based alerts, no, we don't need that. So I'm just going to turn off most of this. Mobile network search, we don't need that. We can always use the mobile network without this location. Motion calibration and distance, we might actually need to leave this on because if we are going to use different applications like the Healthy application or Google Maps, this might actually be very useful, so we are going to leave that on. This other wireless, we're going to turn off. Time zone setting, we'll turn that off. Share my location, we don't need that. System customization, we don't need that. Now there's another option that says significant locations. So if you tap on that, you want to go there and turn this completely off. This will keep track of all your locations, so you don't want this to be turned on. You need to completely turn this off. Now the next thing, if you look down below, it says product improvement. These are options used by Apple to improve their services, so we don't need that. So you completely turn that off. So now that you have this turned off, there won't be a significant change in your battery lifespan, but they contribute to a certain percentage. And the other thing is that you don't get to send these location details to Apple. So you want to make sure you turn off these services that you don't even use. The other thing is you want to double check with the applications that you're using, like third-party applications that are asking for your location. So you want to make sure you turn those off. Otherwise, it's a risky move to give out all this information to a third-party application that is a small business somewhere that no one knows about. So if you just leave these settings on, then you're just sharing your information with those companies. So you want to make sure that the next time you install an application, if it asks you to access the Bluetooth, if it asks you to access the calendar, if it asks you to access the camera or the microphone, you want to make sure that they really need access to that. If they don't need it, then you want to make sure that you don't allow them. So that's it for today. I can always do another video to go deep down into these location services and explain what everything means. But for now, that's the quick settings that you need to make to save yourself the battery and also protect your privacy. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.